Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. Carlisle POV. We all watched as Renesmee and Rosalie left to go outside. I had not intended on making it sound like Renesmee had deliberately hurt Bella. She was the purest person I had met since Bella herself. I made my granddaughter feel guilty. I made her think that we all thought she had hurt her mother on purpose. Bella, I am so sorry. I never meant to hurt either of you. I didn't think of the emotional reaction that she would have. I was merely curious from a medical standpoint. This is something I have no knowledge of. I am fairly certain that there is no one in the world like her. And the fact that you both are here today, it's just incredibly interesting to me. I'm sorry, Bella. Bella held up her hand. It's fine, Carlisle. I understand. And she does too. She hates to think about it. We don't talk about it much. She doesn't like to think that I came so close to dying. She thinks it's her fault, but it's not. Of course not. It's nobody's fault. Esme smiled at Bella in reassurance. Still, Bella, I am sorry. It's just I have so many questions. You know my fascination. But still, I should have thought about the emotional ramifications versus my own interest. Honestly, Carlisle, it's fine. Bella was hesitant, but continued. I know you all have questions. I knew that I would have to answer them, so go ahead, shoot. Everyone looked around the room, waiting for anyone to start off the Inquisition. After several seconds, everyone's eyes, including Bella's, landed on myself. I guess we should start at the beginning. Bella, what happened after we left? I looked to Edward. I'm sorry, but that's where it all started for her, Edward. He nodded slightly and looked to Bella. Bella looked down at her lap and fidgeted with her hands. She almost seemed human again with the mannerism. I was sick, and after a few days I went back to school. I ended up getting really sick there. That's when it clicked. I knew I was only feeling the symptoms so soon because of the supernatural stuff, but it made sense, at least, as much as it could. She laughed without humor and continued. I went and got a pregnancy test, not really expecting for it to tell me anything, but it was positive. I already had a bump in my belly, and I knew I needed to leave. I couldn't deal with it with Charlie there, so I lied and told him I was going to Renee's, and I ended up at your house. I was speechless. Within a week of conception, she was physically sick and had a distended stomach from the fetus. From her description, she was exhibiting signs of being 3 months pregnant, give or take. Charlie let you leave. Esme pulled me out of my reverie. I was so concerned with the science I was forgetting the emotional consequences again. He put up a little bit of a fight, but he was just hoping that I'd be happier there. Everyone nodded. We were all fully aware that she was miserable when we all left. Alice had described her state to us many times. Trying to convince us to return, I was sure that Charlie was just hoping that Renee would be able to help Bella when he couldn't. Why'd you go to our house, Bella? Emmett asked. It was an obvious enough question. I'm surprised No had beaten him to the punch. I didn't really intend to go there. I was just trying to drive away from Forks. I guess I was kinda lost in my own thoughts. But when I realized where I was, I don't know, I figured it was a place to stay for the day at least. But I ended up finding Alice's note and all the stuff she left, so I stayed. Everyone's heads whipped around to stare at Alice. Even Jasper was stunned. Although Edward looked extremely upset at the revelation. Alice POV. Sweet. She blew the secret. Not that it really mattered anymore. They can't fault me for helping my sister and niece survive while my brother was behaving like a dumbass, but I was really hoping we could just bypass that set of details. Edward glared in my direction, and I meant his eyes. You what? Okay, everybody, calm down. I held up my hands in surrender. I knew an explanation was in order, but still, I was having a lot of visions when Edward decided we needed to leave for Bella's own good. Bella looked down, as did Edward. Neither of them seemed to like those points being brought up into the family discussion. Oh well, none of which was very clear. I had seen several times that she would end up at our house, and I had seen things that I was apparently leaving her, but I had no idea why. I decided it was best to just chance it and leave the stuff I saw. I wrote her a note, explaining all of this. Yeah, you said in the note that you weren't sure if I would even find it. She nodded as she spoke. What did you leave her, Alice? I turned to face Jasper. I left her the key to Carlisle's filing cabinet, the key to Yasmi's BMW we left behind. Some blank documents, a few things she had left around the house, clothes and some cash. And some blood. I still don't know what you needed that for. I looked to Bella, had a theory. Now that I had seen Renesmee, but I wanted it to be confirmed without me voicing my guess. Oh, that was the only thing I could really keep down through the pregnancy and the only thing Renesmee would eat. Bella looked down, embarrassed, and I knew we all were missing her blush at that moment. So, you drank blood as a human. Dude, I told you she was meant to be a vampire. Emmett pointed at Edward while he laughed. Esme slapped his arm down before Bella looked up from her lap. Bella, how did you know what to do? Did the blood call to you? Carlisle was clearly curious. He was sitting on the edge of the couch trying to formulate the questions into coherent sentences. Bella looked up. Kinda. I was eating regular food, but I couldn't keep anything down. I had opened the fridge and saw the obscene amount of blood Alice left. I couldn't think of any reason why I would need that much. Neither could I. At the time, Edward looked at me, clearly questioning whether I actually knew or not. I pulled one of the bags out and, I don't know, it smelled good. Like food. Once I started drinking it, it wasn't a big deal. I knew it was the baby, but it didn't bother me either. The smell was different somehow. Amazing! Carlisle continued to stare at Bella while she shifted in her seat. She still wasn't comfortable with the focus being solely on her. What about Angela? How did she come into this? Is she okay? Esme was hesitant in asking, clearly fearing what we all feared, that Angela had become a meal or at least been harmed, or maybe scared to death by what she saw. Bella crossed her legs, seeming to get more comfortable. I saw Edward lift his arm to drape it over her shoulders, but he stopped before she noticed and dropped it back into his lap. Give her time. Edward. I knew I wasn't going to survive without changing into a vampire, and I knew I needed someone to take care of her till I could. Bella looked out the back sliding glass doors to Renesmee and Rosie. I didn't know who to call. I'm sorry, didn't contact you, Alice. I just didn't want you to come back that way. Please understand. I nodded, although there was still a conversation to be had over the topic. I still wasn't happy over her choice, but I didn't want her to defend her actions to the entire family, and none of them knew how easy it would have been for her to contact me with the credit card. Edward's head popped up. Don't start later. I knew Angela was my only hope. I called her and asked her to come over. She freaked out a bit, but still decided to help me. Jasper shifted next to me. What did you tell her? Not much. She knew it was supernatural, and she knew Edward was the father. But she never asked for details, and I just told her it was better if she didn't know what was going on. She just agreed to help you? Jasper was clearly confused. As a rule, humans ask questions and get scared. But Bella was describing Angela as if she hadn't been frightened at all, as if she had acted like Bella herself. I asked her if she could take care of the baby. She agreed. But before I even got any further into our conversation, I was in pain. I was in labor. Angela helped me upstairs, and once Renesmee was out, she took her a rec. I told her about the blood, although I didn't call it blood. In the fridge, I had put it in a pitcher and told her it was for Renesmee. Once she left, I injected the venom into my heart, and I started to change. Your heart? That would definitely speed up the process. Carlisle was reverting into the doctor mode, yet again. You said it took 3 days. How did Angela care for Renesmee for that time? She fed her blood. She figured out what it was, but she didn't deviate from it. Renesmee has showed me all of the memories she has with Angela. She loved Angela. She misses her sometimes, still. She never bit her. Esme asked. No. She acknowledged that she smelled good, but she's always been incredibly bright, astoundingly so. She knew Angela was there to take care of her, and that she shouldn't hurt her. She's never bitten anyone, even me. What about you, Bella? You seem so controlled. Carlisle inquired rather hesitantly. Angela was hard to resist. I ended up jumping out of your window to go hunt for the first time. Animals. You actually helped me a lot, Emmett. She smiled at him. Me? How? You told me what it was like to hunt once. That your senses take over. That it isn't even really you. It's the animalistic side. I was terrified up until I remembered what you said. Emmett and Bella both smiled at each other. After I drained quite a few deer, I came back, but I still didn't trust myself, so I spoke to Angela. Through the glass window, she didn't ask any questions, but they were all written on her face. She left, and that night, Renesmee and I left Forks for good. Jasper was astonished by her control. You weren't tempted by Renesmee. No, she smelled great, but not in a food way. Jasper nodded. Do you have a gift, or is Renesmee the only special one? Emmett laughed. No, I don't think so. 20 years hasn't exactly shown any clues. Maybe your power isn't superficial, maybe it's something else. Carlisle theorized and then looked to Edward, asking a silent question. Edward answered, No, I still don't know what she's thinking. Well then, maybe. Everyone looked to Carlisle. A chorus of what sounded before he continued. I've had 20 years to contemplate it, and I think you might be some sort of shield, Bella, maybe a mental one. Emmett laughed. She's mental. Well, if the doctor says it. Edward spoke, completely ignoring Emmett. That makes sense. It would explain everything. Bella looked between both Carlisle and Edward, silently begging for an explanation, much like the rest of us. I'm sorry, let me explain. Shielding, as a power, deflects attacks on oneself. Most shields are physical. They create barriers around themselves to which no one gets close enough to harm them. But you, I believe, are a mental shield. Your power protects your mind, to the point where no one can harm you that way. But then why can Alice see me, and Jasper can sense my emotions, right? It was true, but even I knew why that didn't matter, if she was truly a mental shield. Bella, I can see outcomes of the future. They're based on your decisions, but I don't actually see the decisions. Your brain plays no part in my power, so the shield doesn't ward me off. Jasper chimed in, and I can sense and manipulate your emotions, but I have no clue to why you feel them. If you feel remorse, I could only guess to why. Bella nodded. That makes sense. I didn't know I had a power. It's quite an unusual and strong gift, Bella. I've never met a mental shield, in fact. I've only heard of a few. It's quite rare for anyone to have that power, and now that you know, you may be able to alter it. How? Maybe project it over others, or maybe even relinquish it so that it doesn't protect you all the time. It would take time and an awful lot of effort. Bella nodded again. Edward POV. If she could relinquish it, then I could hear her thoughts. Oh, what I couldn't give for that. But she would never do that with me present. She always loved the fact that I couldn't hear her thoughts, and she had more reason to feel that way now. So why didn't we see you yesterday at school? Emmett asked the question, but as soon as he did, everyone nodded. I was quite curious why we hadn't seen her, or Renesmee, prior to me meeting them as well. I don't know, I never knew you were there, until Edward walked into my biology class. Biology! How fitting. Alice smirked to herself over the thought. Emmett continued to wonder. Still, we should have seen you at lunch, even if none of us eat. We skipped lunch. We normally do, since neither of us like to eat. We were in the car. Bella just shook her head, dismissively. Well, that explains that, but I have a more pressing question. Alice looked from Bella, me, to Carlisle. I can't see a damn thing anymore, and I think it has to do with my beautiful niece. What do you mean, Alice? Esme's face lined with worry. I mean, I had no idea she existed, and I still have not received one vision containing her. Plus, I can't see anyone when they're with her. Right now, I can barely see 5 seconds into the future since she's so close and is probably considering when to come back inside. Carlisle thought for a moment, as did everyone. Maybe she's immune to your power. Like a shield, too? Bella asked. No, I don't think so. Alice can see most things, or events that are going to happen, but she's those with vampires best, correct? Alice nodded her head. And you can see humans well, but not as well as vampires, correct? Again, Alice nodded. Well, you've been human, and you are a vampire, but you've never been the combination. Maybe that's the key. Renesmee is unique, incredibly so. Maybe a vision cannot hold her. Well, that's disappointing. Alice folded her arms over her chest and began to pout. You mean I'll never be able to see what's coming from her? Damn. I laughed, which only earned a glare from Alice. Okay, I gotta ask, where the hell have you been all this time, Bella? Always the blunt one, Emmett. Lots of places. I'm assuming you all know that she grew at a really fast rate. Everyone nodded. Considering the show she put on, I'm surprised they only nodded. Yeah, well, we couldn't stay in one place very long, so we moved a lot. We lived in various cities in Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Montana, South Dakota, Alaska, and even Vancouver for a bit. I heard Emmett think it. I saw Alice see it, but I reacted too late. I can't believe Edward never found you in all those years. Dude, where were you looking? Emmett looked to me, but I was waiting for Bella's reaction. Her jaw dropped and she appeared to not be breathing. She looked down at her hands. Esme. She didn't know? Carlisle. You didn't tell her, Edward. Jasper. Shocked, she's completely shocked. Alice, I told you to tell her. Edward, damn it. It's... Uh-oh, what'd I say? Carlisle was the first to speak, trying to alleviate the silence. I should be getting to the hospital about now. I'm gonna go say goodbye to Renesmee on the way out. He walked over to Bella and me. Bella, I'll see you again soon. There's so much to catch up on. She stood and he embraced her. I'll see you soon, Carlisle. She spoke in a whisper, still completely shocked at Emmett's announcement. Renesmee stood and followed Carlisle. I'll walk you out. After a few minutes, Bella looked to me. I was still sitting on the sofa, trying to form words to explain myself. Can I speak with you, alone? She again whispered the statement. Of course. I led her up the stairs. I could hear the rest of their thoughts as we ascended. Jasper, she's confused and shocked. She wants answers, obviously. Emmett, tell her everything. Sorry. Alice, tell her the truth. Edward, she needs to know you looked for her. She needs to know you looked for her. For 14 years. She needs to know everything, and she needs to tell you some things too. This is the conversation you two need to have. Alice didn't think about the conversation, giving me no hints to how Bella would respond. Okay, just tell her the truth. Rosalie. I walked behind Renesmee over towards the set of benches by the edge of the trees. I could hear Carlisle starting to apologize to Bella, but I quickly tuned it out. I didn't want to split my focus from Renesmee. She was so obviously Edward and Bella's daughter, and I was trying so hard not to be jealous. I really was. Bella got exactly what she wanted, plus what I always wanted. Even with all of my beauty and luck in finding Emmett, I still found myself envying Bella. It was utterly ridiculous, but she got a baby. She got a daughter, and she is beautiful and immortal. Maybe you only get a few breaks in your lifetime, and she got luckier than me. She didn't even want children. She just wanted Edward. It was truly unbelievable that she, of all people, should get all the things she wanted, plus what I wanted. Fate was truly unfair. And it wasn't just the fact that she got a baby. It was the fact that Renesmee wasn't a baby anymore. She was full-grown, nothing short of an eternal teenager, and I missed it. We all missed her growing up. We missed the cute baby stage and the terrifying toddler stage and all the other childhood experiences that would have passed too quickly, even if they weren't accelerated. I could take some solace in the fact that Edward missed all of these moments as well, but the fact that I missed them because he decided to leave her seemed to rattle my temper. I'm going to kill him. I'm really okay, Aunt Rosie. Okay, I'm not as mad now, she called me Aunt Rosie. She thought of me as her aunt, and while it was true in our completely crazy vampire coven family unit thing, it still made me feel completely thrilled that she thought of me that way after only knowing me for a few hours. They didn't mean to infer that you intended to hurt Bella. They know it wasn't like that. I know it wasn't like that. As completely foreign as this is to us, we know that it was the only way for you to be born, to survive. I sat next to Renesmee and rubbed her back, trying to soothe her. She sniffled and looked into the trees. I know, Mom always said that you all would be curious as to how I existed. I don't want them to think badly of me or you to think badly of me. I lifted her chin up so I could look into her beautiful eyes. Renesmee, we do not think badly of you, not at all. We are completely surprised that you exist. Absolutely. But there is no way that any of us think that you are anything short of extraordinary. I can already tell that Carlisle and Jasper are insanely curious and delighted to meet you. Emmett is about ready to tackle you into a hug. Renesmee can barely contain her motherly excitement, and I'm assuming that you already know that Alice is excited since you met her earlier. She nodded with a smile. And I'm just so happy you're here, and that you seem to like us so much. Honestly, I was just happy she liked me. There was no reason for her not to like everyone else, but me. If Bella ever had a chance to get revenge for me making her life with us anything but easy, then she could easily tell Renesmee all about how I acted towards her. She could easily make Renesmee hate me if she wanted to. Of course I like you all. I love you all. I've wanted to meet you all for nearly 16 years. I have a picture of you all by my bed. I've gotten Mom to tell me things about all of you since I realized you all existed. And what did your mom say about all this? Again, all I really wanted to know was what she said about me. I couldn't picture her saying anything negative about anyone else, even Edward and Jasper. But me? Yeah, I wasn't convinced. She said that Grandpa's a doctor and that he's one of the most compassionate people she's ever met, She said that he risks everything to help people and that he's more human than most of her former friends. That sounded like Carlisle. It was a pretty accurate description, actually. I nodded for her to continue. She said Grandma would love me instantly and that she was one of the most motherly people on the planet. Whenever we watched those old Nick at Night TV shows where the moms are homemakers and cook constantly, she would compare them to her. She said Grandma made them look negligent. I laughed at her comparison. I could imagine Esme giving June Clever a run for her money, and I could absolutely see how Bella saw her that way. Esme always liked taking care of Bella when she was around. Bella was the only one she could cook for and actually be a mom for. The rest of us were grown and had been that way for years. She said Uncle Emmett is a jokester, that he loves to play pranks and tell bad jokes and that he is just a big kid. Yes, my husband is that. Her description put it mildly. Emmett lived to play pranks, and he told horrendous jokes, usually at others' expense, and about their sexual habits. He was also the biggest man-child that I had ever met, and it just made me love him even more. He knew how to keep me calm with his humor when I would otherwise try to kill him. It was honestly a wonder I had never ripped his arm off for making some of the comments he did. She also said that he gives the best hugs, and that because he's so scary-looking people never bother you or try to push their luck around you. She said that he's a protector and the best big brother that she could ever want. It was obvious that Bella missed Emmett from her description, just as he missed her. She said that Uncle Jasper is quiet and reserved, but that once you get to know him, you know he's just as playful as Emmett and as smart dad. Mom said that he reads emotions and can change them if he wants, that it's his power. She said that it makes him more in tune with people, though, that he is more caring and personable because of it. She said he thinks he's the weak link, but he's more like the backbone because he supports everyone emotionally, whether he uses his power or not. Wow, Bella didn't tell her, did she? I was fairly certain that Bella hadn't told Renesmee that Jasper had attacked her, and while I totally understood why she wouldn't, I was just as shocked that she didn't. I would understand if she wanted them to not be around each other. I mean, Renesmee had blood in her veins, and although she didn't smell like our prey, she so obviously could be. I wouldn't hold it against her. But then again, this was Bella. Bella never saw us for the monsters we were. She never blamed Jasper, and she was probably the only one who didn't. Mom likes to call me Mini Alice. Really? I said, laughing. Yeah, she says, I'm just like her. I'm totally into clothes and fashion. I love shopping, and if I could get my mom to go more often, I totally would go every day. She says, I'm metal too. That both Aunt Alice and I can't keep ourselves out of others' business. She never gets mad at me. Probably because it reminds her of Alice and I know she misses her. But still, I get scolded. How do you meddle? She took a deep breath. Usually, I just end up interacting with kids at school, trying to set up people or give them advice. But Mom usually only scolds me when it has to do with her. Like this morning, she got a little irritated with me. She laughed. I wanted her to wear a nicer top, but she refused. If Dad hadn't shown up, I was going to suggest a different top to try and sway her, but I got too excited and ultimately distracted. Yup. She definitely took after Alice. It was ironic since she had never met her till today. But still, I wasn't blonde enough to not realize who was next. Me. I was a tiny bit nervous that she wouldn't have anything nice to say. Or maybe only say the same thing about my beauty and name that she had said before. Maybe Bella didn't have anything else nice to say about me, if anything at all. Renesmee grabbed my hand and held it. Mom says you're fiercely loyal and protective over the family, that you would do anything to guard them from someone learning their secret. Here it comes. I braced myself for the horror. She says that you don't show it to everyone, but you care more about them than even they realize. That you pretend to be strong and cold sometimes, because that's how people see you and you just go along with it to protect your heart. She said that you are completely different from Uncle Emmett. That when he's childlike and goofy, you're mature and serious, that you complement each other. She said that you two are crazier than Alice and Jasper, and that you're really entertaining. I thought back to the times that Bella had spent with our family. I had maybe said 10 words to her all that time, and most of it was in stale greetings. I never liked her, but not because it was her, but because she was putting herself in danger and wanted to give up her perfectly great human life for something she knew nothing about. She had no idea what kind of life this was. Sure, we had each other, and that made it significantly better, but it was still not a life I would wish for. I couldn't understand why she did. I couldn't believe she wouldn't say anything negative about me. How I had acted towards her. I wouldn't have been so kind. But again, this was Bella. Bella was kind. I sat there, grasping Renesmee's hand, looking at her with what I was sure was shock all over my face. "You okay, Aunt Rose?" It took me a few seconds, but I recovered. Yes, I'm perfectly fine. I'm just kind of touched that your mother would speak so highly of all of us, especially me." Why? I was fairly sure that she had not told Renesmee about Jasper, which led me to believe she probably hadn't told her about Edward leaving her as well. At least, not to the extent that he clearly broke her heart. I couldn't bring myself to say anything negative about Bella or anyone else when she had done me the courtesy of keeping my horrible behavior a secret. I wasn't close to your mom before. She was always kind to me, but I just didn't befriend her as I should have. She was more deserving than I knew, more than me. Renesmee squeezed my hand. "I'm sure that's not true." "Oh, it is," I laughed. "But it's okay. It'll be okay. I needed to speak with Bella. I needed to apologize. It wouldn't be easy, especially for me, but I also needed to thank her. I didn't deserve a sister like her. I had always thought of her as a sister. She was Edward's mate after all. But still, she was far too kind to me." Carlisle walked up to us with Esme following close behind. "Renesmee," he called as he approached. Renesmee turned and smiled. "Hey, Renesmee, I wanted to apologize for insinuating that you meant your mother harm. That was not my intent, and far from my belief. I'm sorry." "It's okay, Grandpa. I know. It's fine. She was amazing and we could all see it." Carlisle sighed and looked from Esme back to her. "I do like that name." Renesmee smiled as she blushed. "And as much as I hate to leave, I need to be getting to the hospital. My shift starts in about an hour, and I need to finish some paperwork that I put off from last night. I can't wait to spend some more time with you." Renesmee stood up to hug him. "Me too." "I'll see you soon." After Carlisle kissed her on the cheek, he took off for the garage. Esme looked happily from me to Renesmee. "Well, Renesmee, I know you don't have to eat, but do you?" Renesmee laughed. "I do, but I'm kinda picky. Don't take offense. Please?" "Of course not! But still, I hope that you will spend a lot of time here, and I want to be prepared. So what do you like?" Esme put her arm around Renesmee's shoulders and looked to me as we proceeded back towards the house. We walked through the living room and gained Emmett as Alice and Jasper headed upstairs. The four of us headed into the kitchen while Renesmee told us about the certain types of food and drink she would actually consume versus blood, if given the opportunity. Edward POV. I walked up the stairs in silence with Bella following close behind me. I led her down the second-floor hallway to my room. I held the door open for her and closed it after she walked across to the double-paned window overlooking the backyard. I leaned against the door, not quite sure how to start the conversation. We were quiet for several minutes before Bella finally spoke. "How long?" She didn't look at me. She just continued to stare out the window. 14 years, give or take a few months. I knew that I had spent exactly 14 years. 2 months and 6 days before going back to my family, but I didn't see how that was going to help. Bella took a deep breath and spoke again. "When?" "About 6 months after I left." Again, I knew it was exactly 5 months and 22 days, but I wasn't going to admit that. It shouldn't have taken me that long, not when it came to Bella. She folded her arms across her chest while still facing away from me. "Way?" "Everywhere, Bella. I went everywhere, looking for you. I ran my fingers through my hair. Everywhere. I went back to Forks first, and when I couldn't find you, I called Charlie." "He never mentioned that," she whispered. "I didn't tell him that it was me. No, Charlie had no idea that it was me. He thought I was Mike Shameless Flirt Newton. I would have never found out anything if I had told him the truth. And he probably would have tried to shoot me if he knew I had been calling from outside his house. After that, I went to Jacksonville. When I called your mom, she didn't know where you were either. You're the one who blew my cover. You told my parents that I wasn't with the other one." She interrupted. "I'm sorry about that. It wasn't my intention to cause any problems." Bella raised her head and held up a hand without turning around. "No, that wasn't your fault. It was mine. Oh, thank God she's not getting any angrier at me." "Yes, well, either way, I went to every state after that, searching nearly every city and town I could think of. I must have checked every state at least 3 times during then. I tracked down every relative I could find of yours. I found cousins you've never even heard of. When you told your parents you were attending University of Alaska, I went there. I broke into the dean's office and searched through their files. but never found anyone with the last name Swan. I spent a week tracking down every other Isabella or Bella at that school. There were 23 of them at the time. None of them were you. None even compared to her. I never actually went there, she breathed. Yes, I figured that one out. After that, I continued to search. I went south, which took twice as long since I couldn't go out into the sun. I went to Mexico, but didn't search it long. I never thought you would actually go there. Bella liked the heat, but she didn't speak Spanish, and she wouldn't have traveled that far out of her comfort zone. After that, I headed to Canada. I looked everywhere I could think of. Bella, I swear. Why'd you stop? She began fiddling with the hem of top. At about the 10-year mark, I started trying to convince myself that you didn't want to be found, that you had moved on, that you had a life, that you had a good life, even though you weren't telling your parents about it. I hoped that you had found someone to love you the way you should be loved, someone that you loved back, someone who treated you the way you deserved to be treated, who could give you the things that I couldn't. It took me about 4 years to actually accept that. I moved closer to her, but she still didn't turn around, so I continued. The past 6 years, I have been in the worst hell, Bella. During those 14 years, I had a purpose, a mission. It was still all about you, about me trying to find you. I was miserable without you, but I was still hoping that I would somehow find you. The last 6 years, though, have been worse than what I imagined hell to be. I have had no reason to keep going. My only reason to keep going is you. I needed Bella more than I'd realized, and without a reason to live, exclusively pertaining to her, I was truly lost. Bella placed her hand on her head and whispered something so low that I barely caught it. Unfortunately, it was "Damn it, Edward. That's not a good sign." I hurried to explain further. Bella, I'm so sorry. I made the biggest mistake of my existence and I realized it too late. Please, I'm so sorry. Edward, Bella turned around to face me. Her arms were at her side and she looked into my eyes. I hadn't read her face in so long, but I knew that look. It meant that she was frustrated and sad. It took you 6 months to realize you made the biggest mistake that either of us has been a part of. Do you know how long it took me to realize it? There was no right answer to that question. I knew it was a shorter time than it took me, but I knew no answer would help me in trying to explain my reasoning. 6 seconds. 6 seconds. After you walked away and I found myself trying to follow you, only to fall on the ground and not get up. I knew that that was the worst thing I would ever have to deal with. I knew that my heart would never recover from that mistake. All the pain, all the fire I went through, doesn't even compare. Bella! I took 2 steps slowly, only to have her lift her hand slightly to halt my forward movements. Do you realize the things I gave up because of you? The things that I don't have or have an opportunity for because of you? I loved you, and you had sex with me, and got me pregnant. Edward, I died because of it. Or at least I would have if I hadn't been able to find the venom. It wasn't lost on me that I could have lost her. It wasn't lost on me that she chose Alice's venom either. Bella, I'm sorry. No. Bella took a deep breath and looked back into my eyes. Just listen. I haven't seen my parents in 20 years because they can't see me like this. They have no idea that they are grandparents to the most wonderful girl in the world. They think I'm some wandering gypsy who is probably searching the world for her ex-boyfriend who left her. They think I don't care about them. I gave up my family and my friends. I gave up finishing high school in Forks and going to college. I gave up being human and growing old. I can't eat. I can't sleep. Do you know how much I miss sleep? Every night I watch Renee sleep and just wish I could feel that relief again. I can't go in public in the sunlight. I freaking sparkle, Edward, and I can't cry. You have no idea how much I wish I could cry, how much I want to cry right now. I could see the tears that would never come building in her eyes. She was barely keeping her voice from shaking with the emotion that she was giving off. I'm sure that if Jasper was in the room with us, he would have been on the floor by now. Bella, I'm sorry. I had no idea what to say. But she didn't give me the chance to attempt to say anything either. No. Edward, you don't get it. Oh, I understand. I ruined her life. I don't care that I gave that all up. I got the most wonderful thing in the world for it, Renesmee, and I wouldn't change it, ever. I always wanted this life. Edward, I knew it would be hard, and I knew I'd have to give that stuff up, but I didn't get what I wanted by choosing it. The only reason I ever wanted to become a vampire, before her, was you. I wanted to spend my entire life 1,000 times over with you. I got exactly what I wanted and something I didn't think to ask for, but I didn't get the reason I wanted it. I didn't get you. No, apparently I hadn't understood. Bella! She walked over to me. We were maybe a foot apart, and I wanted to reach out to her so much, but I was still unsure of where this conversation was headed. I really want to cry right now, and not just because I didn't get what I wanted, but because you were too late. If you had found me while you were searching, I know I would have forgiven you and ran right into your arms. But you gave up on us, Edward. No, I didn't. I just didn't know where to look. And so did I. I held out hope for so long, but after so many years, my unbeating heart died too. I'm sorry, Edward. I really am, but it's just too late. Too late? I didn't know what to say. I could convince her that I made a mistake, that I was wrong, that I love her and want her, but I couldn't convince her to love me. I couldn't convince her to give us another chance, if she was so set against it. I had nothing to bargain. I'm sorry, Edward. Bella, I didn't know what to say. For the first time, I had no idea how to save the situation. I had no idea how to fix it. I can't fix this. I'm gonna go visit with everyone. I'll see you later, Edward. She walked around me and opened the door to leave. I couldn't turn to watch her leave. The irony was too much. I heard the door click as I stared out the window. Bella POV. I followed Edward up the stairs and down the hallway. He held open the door for me as I walked in. I walked across the room looking from side to side slightly. It was obviously his room. He had shelves full of music and books along with a black leather couch in the corner. There was a large circular carpet with golden shag. It was nearly identical to his room in Forks. He just replaced everything. I could tell that the stereo wasn't hooked up and that most of the CDs weren't even open. I couldn't decide if I wanted to laugh or cry. He got everything brand new and he hadn't even used any of it yet. I stood in front of a double-paned window showcasing their backyard. I saw Esme and Rosie walking inside with Renesmee. She looked so happy. We stood for several minutes with me staring outside and him leaning against the closed door. Even though I asked to talk to him, I couldn't think of what to say. So I started with the obvious. How long? 14 years, give or take a few months. Oh my God, I gasped, disguising it as a deep breath. He spent 14 years looking for me. How did he never find me? When? About 6 months after I left. 6 months, we were in South Dakota, Hartford to be more specific. I crossed my arms trying to stay facing the window. Where I could hear Edward running his hands through his hair. I had to restrain myself from turning around to look at him. Everywhere. I went back to Forks first, and when I couldn't find you, I called Charlie. He never mentioned that, I whispered. I had spoken to Charlie numerous times then, and he never said anyone called about where I was. He mentioned that Mike had asked how I was doing, but that's it all. I didn't tell him that it was me. After that, I went to Jacksonville. When I called your mom, she didn't know where you were either. So it was him. He blew my secret. He told my parents that I lied. I should have known. You're the one who blew my cover. You told my parents that I wasn't with the other one. I'm sorry about that. It wasn't my intention to cause any problems. I interrupted him by raising my hand. No, that wasn't your fault. It was mine. It didn't matter anymore. My parents never called the FBI to find me, though. Renee threatened to. Yes, well, either way, I went to every state after that, searching nearly every city and town I could think of. I must have checked every state at least 3 times during then. I tracked down every relative I could find of yours. I found cousins you've never even heard of. When you told your parents you were attending University of Alaska, I went there. I broke into the dean's office and searched through their files, but never found anyone with the last name Swan. I spent a week tracking down every other Isabella or Bella at that school. There were 23 of them at the time. None of them were you. He went there? I never actually went there. Yes, I figured that one out. After that, I continued to search. I went south, which took twice as long since I couldn't go out into the sun. I went to Mexico, but didn't search there long. I never thought you would actually go there, even to hide. After that, I headed to Canada. I looked everywhere I could think of. Bella. He searched everywhere. He did look for me. But why'd you stop? I fiddled with the hem of my top, trying to distract myself. Edward sighed. At about the 10-year mark, I started trying to convince myself that you didn't want to be found. That you had moved on. That you had a life. That you had a good life. even though you weren't telling your parents about it. I hoped that you had found someone to love you the way you should be loved. Someone that you loved back. Someone who treated you the way you deserved to be treated. Who could give you the things that I couldn't. It took me about 4 years to actually accept that. I heard him approach, but I couldn't bring myself to face him yet. I just couldn't look into his eyes while he was saying this. He wanted me to have a normal, human life, but that was the last thing I could have. He just didn't understand that I could never have that after him. I couldn't love someone else or be happy with someone else when I knew he had been mine once upon a time. The past 6 years, have been in the worst hell, Bella. During those 14 years, I had a purpose, a mission. It was still all about you, about me trying to find you. I was miserable without you, but I was still hoping that I would somehow find you. The last 6 years, though, have been worse than what I imagined hell to be. I have had no reason to keep going. My only reason to keep going is you. Damn it, Edward. I barely realized that I said it aloud. It was so quiet, but I knew he heard it. Bella, I'm so sorry. I made the biggest mistake of my existence, and I realized it too late. Please, I'm so sorry. You made a mistake. I knew it was a mistake. Why didn't he realize that earlier? Why couldn't he see that before? Why couldn't he just think about it for a few more days? I would have figured out I was pregnant earlier if I hadn't been distracted by him leaving me. He wouldn't have left then. Damn it. Edward, I turned around to face him. I looked into his honey eyes and saw all the remorse he felt. But it was too late. It took you 6 months to realize you made the biggest mistake that either of us has been a part of. Do you know how long it took me to realize it? Edward looked at me. I could tell he wanted to reach for me, but I was glad that he resisted. I don't think I could keep going if he touched me. 6 seconds after you walked away, and I found myself trying to follow you only to fall on the ground and not get up. I knew that that was the worst thing I would ever have to deal with. I knew that my heart would never recover from that mistake. All the pain, all the fire I went through doesn't even compare. Bella, I held up my hands to stop him from coming closer to me. I couldn't let this go. I had to make him understand. I wasn't doing it to make him sad or angry. I just needed him to see why I felt this way. Do you realize the things I gave up because of you? The things that I don't have or have an opportunity for because of you? I loved you and you had sex with me and got me pregnant, Edward. I died because of it, or at least I would have if I hadn't been able to find the venom. I wanted so badly to tell him the truth about the venom, but he would misunderstand. He would think it meant something that it didn't. It wasn't by choice that his venom coursed through my heart. I hadn't done it on purpose. I didn't know what I was doing when I was in labor. I just knew I needed to save myself for Renesmee, that I needed to survive for her. I did it on instinct, and here I was living with both Edward and Alice's venom coursing through my veins for eternity. No, I couldn't tell him. Bella, I'm sorry. No, I took a deep breath. I just wanted him to listen. I just wanted him to understand. Listen, I haven't seen my parents in 20 years because they can't see me like this. They have no idea that they are grandparents to the most wonderful girl in the world. They think I'm some wandering gypsy who is probably searching the world for her ex-boyfriend who left her. They think I don't care about them. I have been lying to them for so long. I knew it was necessary, but I couldn't help regretting that. It wasn't because I was feeling guilty. It was because I didn't get the thing that I wanted to lie for. I gave up my family and my friends. I gave up finishing high school in Forks and going to college. I gave up being human and growing old. I can't eat. I can't sleep. Do you know how much I miss sleep? Every night I watch Renesmee sleep and just wish I could feel that relief again. I can't go in public in the sunlight. I freaking sparkle, Edward, and I can't cry. You have no idea how much I wish I could cry. How much I want to cry right now. Bella, I'm sorry. I saw his miscomprehension. No, I took another breath to steady the emotions I was feeling. I was near my breaking point, and I was surprised I hadn't heard my voice crack more than it had already. Edward, you don't get it. I don't care that I gave that all up. I got the most wonderful thing in the world for it, Renesmee, and I wouldn't change it, ever. I never regretted her, and I would do it all over again for her, whether or not I survived. I always wanted this life, Edward. I knew it would be hard, and I knew I'd have to give that stuff up. But I didn't get what I wanted by choosing it. The only reason I ever wanted to become a vampire Before her was you. I wanted to spend my entire life, 1,000 times over, with you. I got exactly what I wanted and something I didn't think to ask for. But I didn't get the reason I wanted it. I didn't get you. There, I said it. God, I wanted him back. Damn it. Bella! I walked closer to Edward. I wanted to press my hand to his cheek. I saw the pain in his eyes and I wanted to take it away so badly, but I couldn't. I left my hands at my side and looked into his eyes, thanking every force on this earth that he couldn't hear my mind. I really want to... I can't say it. I can't say it. Cry right now, and not just because I didn't get what I wanted, but because you were too late. If you had found me while you were searching, I know I would have forgiven you and ran right into your arms. If I could cry, the tears would drown me right at this moment. But you gave up on us, Edward. I took another unnecessary breath and blinked back the unshed tears. And so did I. I held out hope for so long, but after so many years, my unbeating heart died too. I'm sorry, Edward, I really am, but it's just too late. His face contorted into something that I thought I'd never see. Raw pain. It was certainly something I never wanted to cause. I knew he was at a loss for words. That was a relief, because so was I. I'm sorry, Edward. Bella, there was nothing either of us could say. We both knew it. I'm gonna go visit with everyone. I'll see you later, Edward. I walked past him and opened the door. I looked back to his beautiful hair and body before walking out. I leaned against the opposite door from Edward's and fought to keep my body standing up straight. I wanted to cry more than any other time in my life, more than when I found out I was going to be a single mother, more than when I was being chased by James, more than when Edward left me. I couldn't control my emotions. What did I just do? Bella POV. I stood there for several minutes against the door across from Edward's room. He hadn't made a noise since I shut the door. Unfortunately, I wasn't having the same success. I was futilely trying to calm down my unnecessary breathing. It was insane. I didn't even need to breathe. But here I was, damn near hyperventilating. I placed my hands over my silent heart, trying to breathe normally when the door behind me began to move backwards, ever so slowly. I turned in a flash to see who was witnessing my breakdown. Please don't be Renesmee. Jasper! Come on in, Bella. He smiled and opened the door wide enough that I could see Alice sitting on a couch off to the side of the room. It was placed off to the side in front of a set of double doors. A closet. No doubt. I walked in till I was dead center in the room, equally far away from Jasper as I was from Alice. Neither made a move to get closer. So, how much did you hear? I knew the answer. Come on, we're all vampires now. I knew their limitations, and this was hardly outside of them. Actually, we didn't hear. I looked to Alice. Oh, please. She saw the disbelief and started again. Bella, can you hear Edward now? I shook my head. Well, trust me, he moving and talking to himself. If Esme hadn't put some extra insulation in these walls and doors, we would all be going nuts. What? I couldn't think of a better way to ask. My heart was still asking my brain what exactly I just did and why. We're 3 couples and a distraught loner. We need the privacy. It took us far too long to figure that out. Jasper laughed at Alice's statement. Okay, that made sense. Who really wants to hear Rose and Emmett during the night anyways, or whenever they're alone? But just because we didn't hear, doesn't mean we don't know. I felt all the emotions coming from the both of you, and Alice saw it all slightly before it happened. Fan-freaking-tastic. I was quiet several moments before Jasper decided to move closer and start commenting on that particular conversation. Bella, I know you don't want to talk about it. I can feel that. I looked at him without agreeing or disagreeing. But, you know we're here for you. I can feel everything you're feeling. That's why I finally decided to open the door. You're feeling guilty and remorseful and repentant, but you're also feeling love. You still love him. None of it was formed into questions. They didn't have to be. He could feel all of my emotions, and I knew it was making him uncomfortable as well. I'm sorry, Jasper. Why in the world are you apologizing? I'm the one who needs to do that. I stared at him blankly. I was completely unsure why you needed to apologize. You read my confusion, sighed, and continued. First, I need to apologize for that conversation. I may have heightened the emotions a bit. You felt everything on your own, but I made them more intense. You two needed for those things to be in the open. I felt a moment of anger, but it passed on my own motivations. It's true. I needed to say all the things that I had told Edward. I was never screaming at him. I never felt rage or anger. In fact, I was rather calm while I told him about my issues. It's okay. You're right. There's nothing to forgive. Maybe you seem to be stronger than my abilities. Huh? You were keeping something from him, lying, and I tried to get you to reveal that, but you wouldn't. So he's the reason I wanted to tell Edward about the venom and wanting him back. Okay, now I was a bit mad. Don't do that again, please, I added. The please because, again, I wasn't mad at Jasper. It wasn't his fault, but he still had a hand in it. I won't, but on to my next apology. I'm sorry for what I did on your birthday 20. I interrupted him. No, Jasper, that wasn't your fault. It was nobody's fault, and I won't have you apologize for it. I'm sure he felt my conviction. Bella, we both know that my attack set Edward's decision to leave. If I had had more control, we wouldn't have left, at least not then. We all would have found out that you were pregnant, and it all would have been different. You and Edward would be together, and we would have all watched Renesmee grow up. She would have known us for that last 20 years. Bella, you know it's true. I lost Edward for you, and I lost the family for Renesmee. I had just been thinking the same thing, but I blamed Edward. If he hadn't left, I would have figured it out, and we all would have been together. How could I blame Edward and not blame Jasper? It was a double standard. Damn. Jasper, that was not your fault. I didn't blame you after it happened, and I certainly didn't blame you when Edward left. Hell, I haven't blamed you once in the past 20 years, and I never blamed you while it was happening. Believe me, I understand the thirst. I'm not going to accept your apology because it's not justified. And as far as Renesmee is concerned, that's nothing as well. She would never blame you for something like that. You didn't tell her, did you? No, there's no reason to. Jasper started to open his mouth, but I interrupted him. Would you ever hurt her? I knew the answer just as well as he did. No, of course not, he said it fiercely, protectively. See, then you don't owe me or her anything, not even an explanation. She loves the whole family, including you, but I'm the reason she hasn't had the family for 20 years. Don't even think about it. She'll tell you you're being ridiculous. She knows things happen, and she knows better than anyone, aside from Alice, that things are meant to happen. There is no one to blame for this. Not even Edward. I resigned, and Jasper nodded. I've missed you, Bella. Jasper walked over to me with his arms opened wide. I fell right into the embrace. I've missed you too, Jazz. He laughed in my ear. You've never called me that before. Well, we've never talked like this before. I laughed too. Alice had been silent during the entire exchange, probably sensing that Jasper needed to clear the air with me as well. I heard a low brother and sister from her direction and laughed in Jasper's ear again. He pulled away. All right, let me go pull Edward out of his mood. Make sure he doesn't plan a trip to Italy or anything. We'll be downstairs when you two are done talking. Jasper smiled to Alice and left the room. I had no idea why Edward would go to Italy, but if he wasn't going, then it wasn't important. I walked over to Alice and sat on the other side of the couch. She smiled. It was a "you have some explaining to do" smile. I braced myself for the interrogation and nodded. So, what did you lie about, Bella? Her tone was pleasant, and it took me a few seconds to remember what exactly I was lying about. Oh, the venom. Yeah, I didn't want to disclose that information right now, especially with Edward in the house. I can't, Alice, just not now, okay? Fine. We'll start with an easier topic. I nodded my appreciation. Why did you use my venom? Seriously, did she really just ask that? I couldn't help it. The reaction was just instinct. I started laughing hysterically. She just asked the same question twice, and she had no idea. She thought it was an easier topic. Good God, was she wrong? I continued to laugh, and Alice just stared at me. She went through several emotions, and I was glad that Jasper had left the room. First, she was confused, then frustrated, and then angry, seeing as I wasn't stopping in my laughing fit. Why the hell are you laughing? She didn't scream, but her tone told me it was just the calm before the storm. It took me a moment to regain my composure, because it's the same topic. With that, I laughed again. It took her a few seconds to put it together. You lied about using my venom? The anger was gone, back to confusion. I finally stopped laughing. This wasn't a laughing time, but laughter was helping me cope, although it was also making me look like a complete idiot. Not exactly. Alice, you can't tell anyone, especially Edward. She nodded. It's really complicated, but the short version is, I used both yours and Edward's. What? She was completely motionless, except for her eyes, which were blinking with lightning speed. Okay, long version. After I found the venom, I wasn't sure whose to use. I decided on yours, but I couldn't seem to put Edward's back. I logically, like rational logic, had a lot to do with it. Decided to keep 2 out in case I was in too bad of shape or something. I didn't know what to expect, or if 1 would be enough. When I went into labor, I had Angela bring the 2 over. I never told her what they were, or what to do. I passed out while Renesmee was coming out of my stomach, and Angela injected one of the syringes into my leg out of panic. The fire woke me back up, and as soon as she took Renesmee and left, I shot the other venom right into my heart. I didn't know whose it was at the time. All I could think was I needed to survive for Renesmee. I didn't know which was which till afterwards. Alice was quiet as she processed my story, then she finally asked, "Whose venom went into your leg?" I could tell it was a roundabout question. She was just using deductive reasoning to see which venom went into my heart. Yours. Yours went into my leg. So Edward's went into... She didn't finish the statement. My heart... Yeah. I looked down, as the white-carpeted floor. Why didn't you just say so? You were trying to survive. Because that's not how they'll see it. That's not how he'll see it. Everyone will think that it means something more that Edward's venom went straight into my heart. I mean, come on, you've got to see the metaphor there. She nodded. Yeah, but Bella, isn't it true? You do love him. I sat there for several seconds, thinking of how to explain my own emotions. Emotions that were confusing the hell out of me at the moment. I do, God, of course I love him. But it's not the same as it was. I didn't do it on purpose after it was done, and I knew his venom was in me forever. Not to mention, coursing through my heart, I was so angry. That's not why I kept his venom out. Then why? It was an obvious question, but I didn't have an answer. I don't know, honestly. For the past 20 years, I have tried not to think about it. I pretty much convinced myself that it was only your venom that turned me. Alice placed her hand on my shoulder. You want to know something? I was trying to change the subject, and whether she realized it or not, she smiled in encouragement. Renesmee's middle name is Alice. I didn't have time to react. Alice was across the couch, hugging me for dear life, thanking me continuously. Come on, Alice. It was kind of a no-brainer. You helped me so much. She's alive because of you. Plus, you're my sister. I love you. I gripped her back. We were silently having a hugging war, testing my strength against hers. We walked downstairs hand in hand. I'm pretty sure Alice thought I was going to make a run for it when I saw the whole family and Edward with Renesmee. As we walked into the kitchen, the vision in my head paled in comparison to what I saw. Renesmee was sitting at a large island in the middle of the kitchen. The island could have been a dining table for all the space it provided. She was seated on a bar stool with Rosalie to her left and Emmett to her right. Edward had a hand on her shoulder while he stood behind her. Across from her, Esme and Jasper sat on matching bar stools. I smiled, despite myself. She was happy. No, she was blissful. She was spending time with her dad and family. That was all she ever wanted, and now she had it. I didn't want to interrupt, but Alice pulled me along. Hi, Mom. Hey, Aunt Alice. She turned around to face me, and I went to kiss her hair. I looked to Edward, and he smiled weakly. Emmett stood up to give his seat, not that I needed it, and then leaned on the counter next to me. Emmett smiled and looked to Esme as he spoke. So Grandma is asking Yax here all about the different things she will eat and drink, along with anything else she would like to have here when she visits. Grandma's list is getting quite long. Emmett kept laughing, but no one else joined in. I was getting the feeling that he had been drilling this particular joke into the ground, and everyone else was getting pretty tired of it. Esme, you don't have to do that. I looked to her and back to Renesmee. I knew it was just as much Esme's motherly pushing as it was Renesmee's spoiled side shining through. She barely eats human food anyways, and she doesn't need you to buy special things for her. Nonsense, she is my granddaughter, and I will spoil her if I choose to. Everyone laughed, and I just shook my head. There was no way I was winning this argument. I looked at my watch, 7:14 p.m. Honey, we should probably get home. You have homework. I combed Renesmee's hair with my fingers, and she began to frown. But it'll take 10 minutes for me to finish it. Can't we stay longer? I was about to give in. It was her first time with the Cullens, after all. I remembered what that was like. Alice piped in then. It's okay, Renesmee. You need to get ahead in your schoolwork because we're going shopping on Saturday and it'll be an all-day experience. It's a girls' day, right? She looked to Rose, and she nodded. Right? She looked to me. Her glare started to become threatening. Fine, I'll go shopping, I huffed. It's not like I had a choice in the matter. Either I go, or I stay at home all alone and risk a visit from Edward, or one of his brothers. Alice had already threatened me upstairs, declaring that if I didn't go, she saw Edward coming over to talk, followed by Emmett coming to tease me about being a vampire. I figured she was just trying to scare me, but knowing her, she'd make it happen. Awesome! I can't wait! Rosie looked at me and had the biggest smile on her face, so I smiled back. Come on, I'll drive you back home so Renesmee doesn't have to run. I nodded to Alice and got up to say my goodbyes. I thanked Esme and hugged her along with Emmett and Jasper. I smiled at Rose and she smiled the most genuine smile back to me. There's a first. I walked towards the door where Edward had been holding it open. Thanks, Edward. I'll see you tomorrow. He nodded with a bye, Bella. Rainsea gave him a hug and his whole body language changed. I'll see you tomorrow, sweetie. Okay, Dad. Alice put her arm around her shoulders and ushered us to her Porsche. Come on, I need to pick out clothes for you two tomorrow. It'll be cloudy, but the weather won't be as cold. I smiled and sat in the passenger seat. She and Renesmee were going to drive me nuts on Saturday. Bella POV, I wanted to strangle them. I wanted to dismantle my sister and gag my daughter while we ran away from Alice while she was trying to reassemble herself. I could take out Rosie if need be, else she'd probably help me and distract Renesmee at this point. She was obviously just as bored as I was. It had been 5 hours of non-stop shopping, and I literally wanted to die standing in our third store. Yeah, 5 hours and we had only been to 3 fricking stores. Did I mention that we had just arrived at the third store 10 minutes ago? I am going to kill them. They were feeding off each other. Renesmee would hold up a top to get Alice's opinion, and Alice, in turn, would find 20-something pairs of pants to accompany it. Then Alice would find a skirt she thought would go with Renesmee's complexion, and they would have to design an entire outfit around it, complete with accessories. I, however, stood off to the side, hoping to go unnoticed by the shopping maniacs. I would have never imagined that Alice could actually be worse to shop with, but when you add Renesmee, let's just say I was glad I was already dead. I was about ready to die of boredom. How long can Renesmee keep going? Rosie whispered to me. Not that it mattered, both Alice and Renesmee were too focused to hear her. I don't know, I've never let her loose like this. Now that she has a partner in crime, she may not stop. I sounded sad, depressed even. My daughter had gone over to the dark side. The mall doesn't close till 10. We've got 5 more hours of this. Rosie sounded desperate. What do you suggest? I was willing to take a criminal partner of my own if it got me away from this horror movie. They won't notice if we're gone. They haven't asked an opinion of us for hours and they aren't even looking for clothes for us anymore. Why don't we find a more interesting store? Sounds good. I was frantic to escape the shopping duo and we could easily catch up to them later. Rosie and I ended up in a local music store. I was flipping through older rock CDs at vampire speed since there were only a few customers, and they were all scanning the new releases and top 40 hits. Rosalie stood across from me pretending to be interested in the CDs as well. I kept seeing her look up, open her mouth, and then return to her prior stance. She went through the motions several times before I couldn't take it anymore. She obviously had something to say. If I was human, I never would have seen the motions, but my senses were heightened enough now. Without looking up, I asked, "What's on your mind, Rosalie?" I watched from under my eyelids as she gaped at me. As I looked up, she recovered her poise. "What do you mean? You want to say something? I can see you opening and closing your mouth." She looked at me, gaping again. "Vampire. Now, remember," I whispered. Rosie looked down and nodded her head slightly. "Right. Well, I wanted to talk to you." "Yeah, I got that. Okay, go ahead." "Bella, I'm sorry. It came out in a rush and I barely caught it." "That's unexpected." I could see the effort she was putting in towards me and Renesmee, but here she was actually apologizing. Did Emmett put her up to this? "Why are you sorry?" She let out an exasperated breath and continued to look anywhere but at my eyes. "For all of it, Bella, I was a bitch to you, and I didn't even have a good reason for it. You never did anything to me, and I was still cruel to you. It wasn't fair, and I'm sorry." Wow. Rosie just apologized to me. Where's the hidden camera? I was completely floored by her admission. "Thank you, Rose." She nodded. "I hate to ruin this. But why now? Why apologize at all? I never held it against you." She finally met my eyes. "That's why, Huh? You never held my behavior against me. You could have, but you never did. You could have gotten Edward or any of the rest of them to threaten me or defend you. But you didn't. You could have told Renesmee I was an evil bitch and to ignore me if she ever met me. But you didn't. You told her wonderful things about me, things that are completely sugar-coated, when you didn't have to. She looked back to the CDs. I wouldn't have been so kind, she added under her breath. I thought back. I had never told Renesmee anything horrible about any one of the Cullens. Why would I? They were completely wonderful, and they were family. She deserved to make her own memories and experiences with them without my influence. Besides, I truly never held Rosie's behavior against her. She was protecting her family. I could admire that even more now. Can I ask you something, Bella? Her voice pulled me from my thoughts, and I merely nodded. What's it like? What's what like? She paused. Being a mom? Oh, suddenly, it all made sense. It wasn't the fact that I was willing to give up my life to be with Edward when I was 18 and human that made her mad. It was that I was willing to give up my humanity, or rather the ability to be a mother. She never got the chance for that. She resented me because of that. That's it, isn't it? I phrased it as kindly and gently as I could. That's why you acted the way you did towards me, because I was giving up the thing you wanted. Yeah, she looked down as she spoke. I always wanted to be a mother. You didn't know what you were going to give up. You can't know what you'll want in 10 or 15 years. When you're 18, you had your whole life ahead of you, but you were just going to give it up. I couldn't bear that. I saw her point. I saw it from both sides. As the human teenager completely in love with Edward, I wouldn't have thought twice about not having children, until I realized I was pregnant. I never wanted to be a mother. And if I hadn't been and Edward would have changed me, I probably would have never thought about it. But as the vampire mother that I was, I see her point completely. I love being a mother, but even more than that, I love being a mom to Renesmee. She is my world, and I would never change anything that led to her being mine. Knowing what I know now, I wouldn't choose Edward in that life over her. I just wouldn't. I get that now. Back then, I would have thought you were wrong about me. But now, I agree with you, Rose. I didn't know what I would be giving up. I probably wouldn't have missed it. But having it now, I would never give it up. I wouldn't give Renesmee up for anything. Even Edward. It's that wonderful being a mom. She looks so sad. Yeah, it has its moments. Like now, I seriously wanted to strangle her back there with Alice. But she's my daughter. Granted, she grew too quickly, and she is smarter than me, and has been for years. But she's my little girl. She's me. She came from me, and I can barely fathom that. I shook my head. I still could barely wrap my head around the fact that I actually had a daughter. She was so surreal. What was it like being pregnant? I could see how loaded that question was. Not only did Rose want to be a mom, but she wanted the whole experience. Honestly, she nodded. It kinda sucked. I mean, feeling her move and knowing that she was mine was incredible. I already felt that connection, but it hurt like hell. She grew so quickly, and it felt like I was carrying a 60-pound bowling ball in my abdomen. The morning sickness sucked, because it wasn't actually in the morning. It was all freaking day. And when she finally was about to be born, I felt like my spine had been severed by a hacksaw. She looked at me, completely shocked. Most women say it's the most wonderful experience in the world. Maybe it is for them, and maybe it's just because my baby was half vampire that I felt the weight of it. But honestly, I'm not buying that. It hurt, and I imagined it hurt for everyone. They're all liars. It's the final product, Rose. The pregnancy was the hard part. But for me, it only lasted about a month. She nodded again. You mind if I ask you a question? She smiled at me and nodded. Actually, it's more of a favor. Rosia's face shifted for a second before she smiled even more brightly. What are sisters for? I laughed. Well, sister, dear, she laughed at my response. I was hoping you could be the sane aunt for Renesmee. Alice is great, you know I love her, but they're gonna get in trouble shopping all the time, and there are gonna be times when she needs that more mature person. They'll be close too, I'm sure, but you can relate better. You remember what it's like to be human, and Alice doesn't. I know Renesmee already loves you, and I can tell you love her back. I figured that out pretty quickly when you went outside with her the other day to make sure she was okay. I appreciated that more than you will ever know. I looked to Rose hoping that I didn't need to continue my explanation. She could be the kind of aunt or friend that Renesmee never had, someone that cared for her, but didn't discipline her or judge her. If anyone was capable of that, it was Rose. Rose flew around the CD storage units to me. "I would be honored," she whispered as she hugged me tightly. I had never hugged Rosie before, and it felt nice, like she was actually a sister. Rose quickly disentangled herself from my arms. We may have bonded, but this was still Rosie Axley Hale. "Ice Queen, I gotta ask." I nodded. I knew this was coming, but honestly, I thought Emmett or Esme would be the culprit. "What's going on between you and Edward?" I shook my head. "Nothing." "And is that his decision or yours?" She knew, and she knew that I knew she knew. Ah, good Lord, did I just think that? I shook my head, clearing my thoughts. "Mine, Rose, I don't know what to think about him anymore." "Do you love him?" "Well, just start off with the easy questions. Why don't you ask?" "I do, but I don't know in what regards anymore. I haven't let myself think of him as anything other than Renesmee's father for years now. I don't know how to work around that. I'm not sure I want to," I added. The last sentence quietly, but it's not like she wouldn't hear it. "You know he loves you and that he searched for you for God knows how many years." "Yeah, I know. I just didn't know where to put that." "I never thought I'd see this day," she mumbled. "And what day is that?" I said, growing slightly irritated. She laughed. "You pick the day that Bella Swan dismisses Edward or the day that Edward doesn't get everything he wants." I rolled my eyes. Apparently both were true. "He left me. Rose, he told me he didn't want me and that he didn't love me, and then he just left me there in the woods. I don't know how to line that up with the fact that he searched for me and never stopped caring, along with the fact that he wants me back. I'm trying to make sense out of it, but I just don't know right now." It was the most honest answer concerning my feelings for Edward that I had made in the last week. It was exactly how I felt, because truly I didn't know anything except the facts. But the facts weren't helping me with my emotions. They just caused them to conflict more. Rosie turned and grabbed my arm. "Wait, he told you he didn't love you?" she hissed. "Yeah, I believed it too. I didn't realize it wasn't common knowledge. Granted, it wasn't like I'd published the information for Renesmee. That bastard. I'll kill him." She was seeing red now, and I was kind of scared for Edward. I had spent years being terrified of Rose. I still didn't want to end up on her bad side. I rubbed her hand on my arm. "Rosiers, calm down. I don't want Renesmee to know about how Edward treated me that day, or why he left. It's just between us, right?" She looked at me like I had 3 heads. "You're serious?" "Yes, I am. I don't want her to know why he left me. She wouldn't see him the same. I know she wouldn't hold him, or even Jasper, accountable. She's far too understanding, but she would never forget that, and I don't want her to know, because of me. If Edward chooses to tell her, it's fine, but I won't harm his relationship with her." Fine. She was pissed. But at least she wasn't pissed at me, and she wasn't going to kill him. She might make things harder for him, but I could deal with that. What I couldn't deal with is if she made Renesmee question her family. She needed to have relationships without others' influence. Renesmee POV. I tossed a sheer royal blue blouse into the pile that Aunt Alice was gathering, consisting of clothes to be tried on. The pile was up to my knee already, and all the garments were laid flat on the floor. Heaven forbid they are ruffled before we try them on. I finished with the clothes rack I was searching, and then looked around me. Mom was gone. Aunt Rosie was gone. I hadn't noticed that they left. "Aunt Alice, where'd Mom and Aunt Rose go?" She didn't even look up from the rows and rows of jeans she was sorting. "They left about 15 minutes ago. They're fine." Okay, that didn't really answer my question, but okay. Realization dawned. This was my chance to get some answers. I watched as Aunt Alice walked over to the pile with yet another 25 pairs of jeans, give or take, in various cuts and washes. "Here, you take these and I'll grab those." Grab the last stall on the left. "It's the largest and we can share." I followed her instructions. I didn't want to cause any more attention to my nearly 5-foot aunt carrying probably 80 pounds worth of clothing. Once the door shut, I figured it was now or never. "Answers, just get the answers," Renesmee. "Hey, Aunt Alice." She mumbled as she pulled a white lace top over her head. "I need to talk to you." She looked at me through the mirror and nodded for me to continue. "I have some questions I need to ask you about Mom and Dad." Those last 4 words completely froze her. She just continued to stare. She didn't blink or even breathe, granted. I knew she didn't need to, but it would have made me feel better if she did. "Aunt Alice," her head twitched. What do you want to know?" I looked down as I pulled a pair of dark wash bootcut jeans up and fastened them. Everything. You should ask your mom, Renesmee. I should, but I couldn't. I wanted the truth, and I knew she was hiding things about their relationship from me. I just knew it. I want you to tell me. You should ask your dad then. Aunt Alice, I don't want to ruin it. I just got him back. I don't want to freak him out by asking all these questions. Besides, you won't lie to me, I pleaded with her. I was positive she wouldn't lie, maybe sugarcoat, but not lie. She sighed deeply. Your mom is going to kill me, I'm sure of it. Do you know when she'll be back? I could go with a Cliff Notes version if necessary. I have no idea. She probably hasn't made the decision of when she's coming back yet, and either way, once she's with you, I won't see her. She sighed again. We probably have an hour or so, though. She won't come back willingly when they're shopping. I nodded. Go ahead, Renesmee. What do you want to know? I want to know why he left her. She said he had to go because Grandpa got another job, but that's not true, is it? She shook her head. I figured that when I found your note. You found my note? She asked suddenly. Yeah, I was snooping a while back when Mom was out. I found it then, along with everything else left in the trunk. She laughed at something I had obviously missed, but I continued. So what really happened? You can't just hear why he left without the backstory, you know? What do you know about their relationship? Nothing. Not much. I know they were in high school together in Forks. I know that they loved each other and that she was practically a part of the family, and they conceived me before he left. That's it. She let out a short laugh. All true, but my version is better. She patted the suede ottoman sitting in the middle of the larger-than-the-rest dressing room, and I joined her. Your mom came to Forks in the middle of the school year, and she was the shiny new toy, according to one of her new classmates. Everyone was fascinated, but she was shy and didn't want the attention. She was curious about us all, of course, and we tried to see what she thought of us through Edward, but he couldn't read her thoughts, I interrupted, smiling. Yes, he was so mad that she was immune. It was driving him insane, but he wouldn't admit it. Anyways, she ended up being in one of his classes, and the moment she walked in, he smelled their blood in a more concentrated form. You know what it feels like to smell human blood. You get thirsty just like we do, but you don't feel it as strongly, I'm sure. I nodded. I was able to ignore it completely once I accepted that it was there. Well, your mom's blood was more potent than others, especially to your dad. There are certain people in the world that just smell better, more delectable than others. They call to us, and it's nearly impossible to resist, and that's what it was like for them. I have no clue how he resisted during that hour, but he did, because he loved her, obviously. After school that day, he fled to Alaska to visit some friends of ours to avoid hurting her. After a while, he realized he couldn't do that anymore, and he came back to face her. He tried treating her like any other human, but he started to become fascinated with her. Honestly, he was falling in love with her, he just didn't know it. It was love at first sight, almost, whether he knew it or not. That's sweet. Everything changed one morning, though. Bella was standing at her truck before school, and the roads were icy. One of the students lost control of his van, and it slid. There was no way it would miss her, and I saw that she wouldn't survive mere seconds before it happened. Edward just ran at full speed and stopped the van with his body. He moved her about 3 times because the van seemed to be destined for some purchase. The family panicked because of the risk of exposure, and Edward decided to just convince her that she hadn't seen anything. But she wasn't having that. She never told anyone, and Edward just ignored her. Poor Mom, she probably thought she was going crazy. That went on for a long time. She went with her friends one evening to Port Angeles, and she ended up wandering off by herself. Your dad decided to follow her just to keep her safe, but he lost her for a bit. She ended up in a bad part of the town, and some guys started following her. Your mom is a magnet for danger. It's a wonder she wasn't drawing in all kinds of monsters with her luck. Anyways, your dad rescued her, and that was it. They started spending more time together, getting to know each other, and when she finally confronted him about what he is, she didn't care. He rescued her from a car crash and possible rapists. How could she not love him? So what changed? Something had to go bad for it all to end up like this. It wasn't just one thing, Ness. It was a lot of things, honestly. First of all, there was the whole James thing. I looked at her, clearly conveying my confusion. You don't know about that either, figures. Okay. Shortly after Edward brought Bella to meet us all, we all went out to play baseball. I laughed. I couldn't help it. She just said it like it was nothing, and I knew that it was anything but. Mom had told me about the Cullen Baseball League. I knew the antics that ensued and the crazy regulations that they had adopted. Sorry, continue. She nodded. surely understanding that I was familiar with that part of the story. Okay, so we were playing baseball, and 3 nomads happened to hear us. We couldn't run, so we tried to hide Bella among us. At the time, it seemed like a good idea. We were a large enough coven, and she was always kind of pale. But one of them, James, noticed the scent when a damn wind came along, and he was instantly intent on killing her, and purely for sport, since we were determined to protect her. I was speechless. Danger magnet is an understatement. Jasper and I took her to Arizona to hide out while the others protected her dad and stayed to fight. But James ended up following us. The female that was with him stayed in Forks to confuse them, and the third, another man, left altogether. James ended up coercing Bella to him by telling her that he had her mom. I gasped. He took Grandma Renee. I knew she was fine, but oh my god. He didn't have her really, just a videotape that came in quite handy for him. She rubbed my back and continued. Bella was trying to protect everyone, though. Her mom, Jasper, and me, Edward, all of us. James bit her. What? Calm down, she whispered as my heartbeat picked up. We got there in time, obviously. Edward was able to suck out the venom like a snake bite, and we killed James. Bella was messed up pretty badly, but she was fine. I nodded. How was he able to do it? You said her blood was so strong for him. How could he just suck out the venom and not continue to drain her? I was glad he did it, but it was mind-boggling. I don't know how exactly. There isn't a real reason except that he loved her too much to lose her. But here it comes. Come on, bring it on. She smiled. There isn't a but, Ring-Sin. There's just more. You need to know that Edward's greatest fear was something happening to Bella because of what we are. He was so afraid that one of us would hurt her or cause her to be hurt, or worse, and that's what happened with James, but it wasn't the last time. On Bella's birthday, we had a party at our house for her. It was awesome. The decorations were perfect, and I got a beautiful cake. Yuck, everything was perfect, but here it comes. Something happened that wasn't expected. She stopped, deciding what to say and how to word it. I don't want you to think badly of him, because it wasn't his fault. Any one of us could have done it, given the circumstances, but he was more susceptible. I waited for the explanation. What did Dad do? Your mom was opening her presents, and she got a paper cut, and everything happened very quickly, even by vampire standards. Dad attacked her? It would make sense why he left, why she wasn't that happy to see him, and why she never told me. No, your dad didn't, but Jasper did. His bloodlust has always been manageable, but compared to the others, it's slightly uncontrolled. He hadn't been practicing the diet for as long. His thirst took over, and he regretted it the second it happened. Edward pushed Bella out of the way and pushed Jasper away, so Emmett and Rose could get him out, but the damage was done. Edward had pushed her into a ton of glass plates and things, and she was cut up pretty badly on her arms. I didn't know what to say, so I just let her continue. We all had to leave the room, except for Carlisle, who sewed her up. It was Edward's greatest fear come to life yet again, but this time, the family was the only ones to blame. He couldn't deal with that and decided we weren't safe for Bella to be around anymore. He thought we were keeping her from her human life and that she needed a clean break from us, so we left, and a few days later, he did too. Oh my god, how could he just leave her? I looked down. I was moments away from crying. There's more, and I really don't see why you shouldn't know it at this point. Your dad lied to her when we left. He was hoping to give her closure and help her move on faster, but he did it harshly. He told her he didn't want her anymore, and she assumed he didn't love her either. Oh, my god. Now I was crying. Your letter? That's why you called him a dumbass? She let out a quick laugh. Yeah, I've spent the last 20 years making his life harder for your mom, because of what he did. But you gotta know, he searched for her too. For 14 years. He just realized the mistake too late. Alice pulled me to her side as I cried. I couldn't believe it. They were meant for each other, they loved each other so deeply, and they screwed it up. They let outside circumstances come in between them. He gave up on her, and she let him go. Their story makes Romero and Juliet look like a calm, soothing comedy. Renesmee, that's all she could say. She had laid everything else on the table. I had to ask, do you think they still love each other? Yes. Her answer was immediate. No hesitation whatsoever. Your dad waited nearly 80 years to find someone like Bella. He never loved anyone before her, and he will never love anyone else. As for your mom, she still loves him more than she knows. She's just having a hard time. She hasn't thought of him as anything but your dad in so long that she has no idea what to do. She spent 20 years thinking he didn't love her back, and she found a way to cope with that. So now she's confused. But Renesmee, they are soulmates. Each other's true love. They're meant to be together. I nodded into her shoulder. I wanted them together. Mom deserved to be happy and loved, and so did he. They just need to get over their issues. But I'm impatient. And Alice, we need to get them together. She looked at me, shock written on her face. Excuse me. I stood up and looked her in her eyes. We are going to get my mom and dad back together. Mom doesn't call me Mini Alice just because I love to shop. I also meddle a lot, and mostly in her life. She looked at me with huge eyes, shock written on her face. She usually knows what's best for me, but she has no idea what's best for her. And what's best for her is being with Dad. She'll thank us for it. It took a moment for Alice to respond. I agree, she needs to be with Edward. They both need each other more than they realize, but I can do it on my own. This ends, you don't need to get involved. Does she really think she can make me sit out? Aunt Alice, you need my help. I can manipulate her, trust me. She quirked an eyebrow. I laughed. I can't believe you haven't figured it out yet. I laughed again. Figured what out, Renesmee? She pulled me back to the ottoman so we were eye level. Really? She didn't see it. The credit card, I answered simply. She squinted at me, like she was trying to decipher the meaning of my statement. Bella never used the credit card. No one did, ever. Nope, no one ever did. I laughed, but Aunt Alice didn't seem to find the humor, so I quickly continued. Aunt Alice, you put the card in Bella's name? She nodded. All of her personal information was linked to that card. She nodded again. It wasn't hard to call the company and pretend to be her. I got the billing address. I stated proudly. Okay, but that account is linked to a neutral address in New York. She shook her head, trying to figure out where I was going with this. Yep, but you have all of your mail sorted there and then sent to wherever you're living at the time. I called and explained that you owed $22,000 to a collection agency and that you had given us a bogus number and address. They told me the 4 most recent forwarding addresses. I laughed. The guy that I had called totally freaked out and made me promise not to call again. I'm guessing you had already seen you were going to go to Ohio and made the forwarding change. I made Mom move here on really short notice. I knew we'd find you eventually, although I thought it might take a few tries. I got nervous when you didn't show up for the first few weeks. It was easy, actually. I smiled at Aunt Alice, who looked like she was having an aneurysm. You tracked us, using human methods. I never thought we'd have to worry about that, she stated quietly, and mostly to herself. You cannot tell Mom, she has no clue, but I wanted to meet and be with you all. Now, come on. Are you going to help me or not? Aunt Alice looked at me again, closing her gaping mouth. I'm in. What do you have in mind? I smiled before I jumped up and down into her arms. I have a few ideas, but they won't get the job done. I'm still searching for inspiration. Well, we can get pretty much the entire family to help us. They all want Bella and Edward to get back together. I pulled off the pair of jeans I had been wearing for the entire conversation and continued to try more clothes on. Alice continued as well. Though the POV setting all the girls are leaving the mall, I held 23 bags in my arms. We were thankfully some of the last remaining customers left in the parking lot. I didn't want to draw any more attention to us. Even the 2 associates that helped us in the last store had vacated the premises. Only the overnight staff was left in our area. Alice, do you think all of this will fit in the trunk? I pushed the bags in as far as they would go, and they still stuck out by about a foot. Of course! Come on, Bella! Use the vamp's strength. I shook my head, and both Rose and I crammed the bags in as Alice lowered the trunk hood. We all climbed into the car. I laughed as Renesmee rested her head on my shoulder. I warned you, I whispered. She giggled. It was fun, she sighed. Alice put the key into the ignition. I expected the car to purr to life, but instead we heard a click. What the hell? My car, Alice whined. She repeated her actions 3 times before she gave up. Let me see if I can fix it, Alice. Rosie opened her door, but Alice just pulled her back in. No, we all looked at her, silently questioning her sanity. I mean, it's dark. I don't want to risk it getting worse or something. We'll just call the guys to pick us up. You want to leave your precious car overnight, all alone in the mall parking lot? Rosalie was waiting for the punchline. I hadn't realized she was so attached to the car. Renesmee yawned again. It'll be fine. and we can come tomorrow before they open. So nothing happens to it. Besides, Netsley is tired. Let's just get her home. Alice smiled sweetly at Rose, but she looked like she was up to something. And what is with the nickname for my daughter? What's wrong with Renesmee? Fine, Rose stated as Alice texted Jasper. They'll be here in 10 minutes. That's when they disappear. She sighed, and we all waited. Renesmee nestled her way onto my lap and closed her eyes. After about 15 minutes, we saw 2 cars. Rosalie's new model of her old BMW. I'm guessing she wasn't ready to let it go, and a Mercedes. As they pulled up, I saw Jasper and Edward riding in the Mercedes, and Emmett sitting in the BMW. I also noticed that the BMW only had 2 seats. This is suspicious. I glared at Alice, waiting for her plan to unfold. Rosie, ride with Emmett, and the rest of us can pile into the Mercedes. Oh, and I'm driving! Before I could even lift Renesmee's sleeping form out of the car, both Rose and Em were gone, and Alice and Jasper had claimed the 2 front seats. How convenient. I woke Renesmee enough so she could squeeze into the seat next to Edward, and me next to her. She yawned and tucked herself right into Edward. It was kinda cute. Damn. As the ride went on, Renesmee stretched. It wasn't long before she was being supported by Edward, so she was lying up against his chest with her legs hung over my lap. I looked at her face. She was completely out. As the ride went on, I started to waver over the conclusion that it was all a setup. Nobody talked and seemed to just be eager to get home. My defenses must have been down. Thank you, I mouthed the words to Edward. For what? He smiled, brushing some hair out of Renesmee's face. For being a fantastic father to her. I always knew you would be. I'm just sorry it took so long for me to actually witness it. I smiled at the sight of them. You're a pretty incredible mother yourself. I laughed and mouthed, Sure. Don't. Bella, you have made our daughter into the most amazing person. She's caring and loving and strong. She's fearless and wonderful. She knows exactly who she is. She's comfortable in her skin and knows people intuitively. She's so much like you. I would have blushed if I could at that moment. I turned my head and caught Jasper's eyes in the rearview mirror. Are you doing this? I hissed. He held both hands up in front of him, in surrender. No, this is all you two. He looked back out the windshield, pretending he hadn't heard a thing. I took a breath. Thank you, Edward. I tried to convey all of the emotions I felt towards him in that moment. Appreciation, gratitude, and forgiveness. It didn't fix us, but we could at least be friends. Edward POV. No, Bella said, it simply, without emotion. To her, it was simply a fact. I paused, thinking of another alternative. Okay, what about a car? No. She continued to clean her kitchen at human pace. She had already washed the dishes and put them all away. Now she was filling the sink to mop the floor. She was barely focused on the conversation at hand. What about college? I could pay for her tuition and all that college entails. Books, board, food, entertainment. I didn't want to add too much to the list. That wouldn't help my situation. Bella turned off the sink and retrieved the yellow mop from her pantry calmly. That is not a birthday gift, Edward. Does that mean I can pay for Renesmee's college someday? I'll explore that option later. How about a trip? Maybe Europe or Isle Esme? I knew Renesmee wanted to see another beach, and this is one where none of us had to hide. She paused for the briefest second, probably at the mention of Isle Esme, but she recovered and turned to stare into my eyes. I got lost for a second before she spoke again. No, think of something more realistic. A new computer? Theirs was nearly 7 years old, and they weren't the first ones to own it. No, her annoyance was evident with her tone. I had pushed her too far. Edward, she's 20. She does not need to be spoiled with expensive material things. I know you want to get her something special, but think of something else. You can get her something, but it will mean more if the gift isn't just something pretty or expensive. She would rather spend the day with you than getting no-limit credit card. She had a point. I suppose that suggestion was a bit rash. However, I intended to spend time with Renesmee on her birthday, and any other time that I could. Alice was already planning a family birthday party that night, but I still wanted to get her something she could unwrap. Oh, right. I get it, Bella. I really do, but I want to get her something. She sighed while she dipped the mop into the sink to begin her cleaning. What about a cell phone? It's a gift for you and I, as much as her. We can get a hold of her whenever she's not with us, and if there's an emergency, she can get a hold of us too. I was running out of ideas. It's not like a CD or book would do. I had missed 19 years of birthdays and other holidays. I wanted to make it up now. Bella turned and glared in my direction, but didn't meet my eyes. Fine, but you better not get the most ridiculous one on the market. All she needs is to make phone calls and maybe text. That's it. I nodded. She would also need to check her email and access the internet. She would probably want to download music or TV shows too. Bella POV, the entire house was spotless. I had washed the floors, vacuumed, dusted, and scrubbed every surface in the house. I was still stewing about giving in to Edward, but I had to admit the cell phone was a smart idea. Out of all his options, it was the best alternative. It was worlds more reasonable than his ideas about getting her a car or a new house. The only problem was that I still had no idea what I was going to get. Renesmee for her birthday. We always did small things for our birthdays, but now with Edward and the Cullens, those days were gone. For my birthday, Renesmee had given me a homemade scrapbook with pictures of us from the past 20 years. Last year, I had given her Florida snow globe. I promised that we would go back there one day to see the beaches again. The year before that, I had given her a refurbished iPod, and she was grateful. We didn't flaunt money and rarely used it to buy things for ourselves or each other, except when it came to what was needed. I looked at the calendar by the useless refrigerator. 2 days. I had 2 days to find a gift worthy of the Cullen competition. I heard Renesmee open the front door and head my way. "Hi, honey," I called. "Hey, Mom, what you doing?" "Just thinking, did you have fun with Alice?" I couldn't believe how often they were shopping. It had been 2 weeks since our first shopping trip, and they had already been on 5 more on their own. Rose and I refused to accompany them until they became more reasonable about their shopping habits, i.e., the amount of time and money spent in each store, and the number of stores visited in a trip. Yeah, we had fun. She got me some clothes for my birthday. Yeah. I bit my tongue not to ask how much she brought. I had already tried to rein in Alice, but anytime I attempted to argue my side, she played the Angela card. Or the credit card. Yep, Renesmee started to turn to head to her bedroom. "Well, what do you want for your birthday, hon?" I usually didn't ask, but I was running short on time. She halted her movements and slowly turned, which immediately made me tense. "I don't know if I want anything, but there's something I want to do." She seemed nervous about asking me, which in turn made me nervous. "Well, what is it, sweetie?" I smiled, letting her know we could do almost anything if she wanted to. She smiled sweetly in return. Almost too sweetly. "It must be something I'm not going to want to do." "Just say it, Renesmee." I laughed, trying to ease her nervousness, and hoping that she would just spit it out. Rosalie giggled slightly before taking a deep breath. "I want us all to go to formal?" It came out as a question. She knew how much I hated dances, but she didn't know I had actually attended one before, with her father, and I was not going to reveal that little fact. "Really?" I attempted to not sound unhappy. But it was difficult. I hated dancing, always had. "Yeah," she said hesitantly. That's when I focused on her statement. Beyond the announcement of the formal, she had said all, which I could only conceive to mean that the entire family would go: myself, Renesmee, Edward, Alice, Jasper, Rosie, and Emmett. "Oh my, all of us?" I asked. "Well, yeah, I think it would be really nice for everyone to be together, and David asked me to go." David? He was a junior in our gym class, and he blatantly stared at my little girl nearly every day. The vampire within was impending death to the boy who was pursuing my daughter. But my common sense was explaining the consequences of those actions. Maybe Edward can listen to his mind a bit. "Mom?" I looked to her again, momentarily distracted from plans for the high school boy who had asked out my daughter. "What did you say?" I told him that I would check to make sure I could and let him know. "I really want to go. Mom, I like him, and I think it would be fun for everyone to go together. Please?" The pout was fully in place. I fought it with everything I had, but I was sorely lacking in the resistance department. It was what she wanted for her birthday, and I had to admit that with the entire family there looking after her, especially Edward, Emmett, and Jasper, she would be protected if the boy tried anything. Unfortunately for him, he would not be so protected. "Okay, we'll go, but that's not a birthday present," Renesmee. "The dance doesn't even fall on your birthday, it's nearly a month after." She smiled brightly. "But that's what I want. I want the entire family to go and for us all to look amazing and have a wonderful time. That's not a gift. I wanted to give her something that was from me. If everyone went, it was a gift from everyone, not just me." "Well, how about you convince everyone to go?" she mumbled. "And I pick out your outfit." "Oh, I'm going to regret this." Okay, happy birthday, I sighed, completely defeated. Renesmee squealed and threw her arms around me in a hug. 2 days later, Rainsmee's birthday party, still Bella POV. Renesmee and I were headed over to the Cullens for Rainsmee's party. She was bouncing in the passenger seat, and I had given up trying to calm her down. She wasn't excited about the food or the gifts, or even them fawning all over her. She was just excited to spend time with all of them again. She had spent many shopping trips with Alice and saw Edward and Jasper every day in classes. On top of that, we all had lunch together at school. She also went over to their house at least a few times a week to visit with Esme and Carlisle. I hadn't gone over since my last talk with Edward, but some of them had come to see me. But she was overjoyed to spend the entire evening with everyone all together. I, on the other hand, was nervous. I know it's stupid, but there it is. I was nervous because everyone, including Carlisle and Esme, knew that Edward and I weren't together and that there were no plans of that status changing. I was nervous because I had seen Alice with her scheming face on whenever she looked to me or Edward. I was nervous because Renesmee was having a birthday party with the Cullens, and I distinctly remember my last birthday with them. I was also nervous at the various and very extravagant gifts she was sure to receive from everyone. At least I was able to tame Edward's gift a bit. We pulled up to their estate and were immediately greeted with fuchsia and brown streamers surrounding their wraparound porch and nearly every surrounding tree. There were foil stars covering the windows and door. I could only imagine the inside. Alice, like she heard me call her. Alice appeared at the front door wearing a rather large smile. Especially for my daughter, and suddenly, I didn't care. Spoil her. Go ahead. Renesmee jumped from the car and ran inside with Alice. I instead walked casually to the front door to see Emmett waiting for me. Bringing back memories, he laughed. I fell into the bear of a hug he was giving and just willed myself to relax. Just like so many years ago, I saw the extravagance that they could go to for a simple occasion. There were more stars hanging from the ceiling and lying on every surface that was not covered in various wildflowers, which were Renesmee's favorite. Now, upon closer inspection, I realized the stars weren't foil. They were metal. But not just any metal. No, they appeared to be silver, possibly white gold. I banished the thought and continued to appraise Alice's work. She had gotten a large double-decker cookie cake with minimal frosting. There were also streamers draped over all of the banisters, one of which appeared to be brand new, and mantles. There was an iPod playing music in the background, and I recognized a song from Renesmee's playlist, although I didn't know the title or band that was playing it. Fuchsia Christmas lights were piled in clear vases and bowls, creating interesting lighting effects. I did notice, however, that there were paper plates instead of glass. Even the vases and bowls appeared to be plastic. I laughed at the irony. I may be impenetrable to shards of glass, as is Renesmee, but the thought struck me as hilarious and meaningful. Emmett nudged me out of my reverie. What's so funny? Nothing. I simply shook my head as I greeted the rest of the Cullens. Okay, Alice began. It's present time for my lovely niece. You already know what I got you, but here it is, anyway. She handed Renesmee a gigantic box, nearly as tall as Emmett, and nearly as wide around. It's clothes. Can we skip to something more interesting? I thought Emmett would be slaughtered at that very moment from the look he was receiving from Alice. Both Rosie and I stepped in front of him, providing a horrible excuse of coverage from her wrath. Don't ruin my fun, Emmett, or I'll ruin yours. Alice glared, while Emmett just nodded and continued to laugh and make comments to both Rose and me. After what felt like an hour, Renesmee was handed her next gift from Jasper. It's from me and Em. Renesmee giggled as she slid the sadly tied ribbon from the golden box. It wasn't large, but actually pretty small, for which I was grateful. But then again, that didn't mean much. There could have been a platinum credit card in there, or $1,000 necklace. She flipped the top to where only the contents were known to her, and the givers. Oh my God, you're kidding. I wanted to go to this one so bad. She threw her arms around Jasper and kissed his cheek. He smiled as she ran around me to hug Emmett as well. What is it, hun? I finally asked. Concert tickets to U2 and Muse. She was jumping up and down as she shoved the tickets in my face. It's this weekend, and it's just you, me, and Jazz. Some uncles and niece bonding time. Emmett declared proudly. I wrapped my arm around Jasper as he had made himself closer to me. He leaned in to whisper in my ear, We'll protect her from all the lowlifes. I know, I squeezed him around the waist, showing my gratitude. Okay, Grandpa and I next. Everyone laughed as Esme presented Renesmee with her and Carlisle's gift. The box was larger than Jasper and Emmett's, looking to be the size of a briefcase, and more properly wrapped. The butterflies racked my stomach, and Jasper sent me calming waves. As she opened the wrapping, Renesmee's lips curled into a smile. She knew what she was getting. That much was obvious. As she pulled the paper away, I saw the emblem I had been fearing. Dell. A new computer. Something I distinctly told Edward. He was not allowed to get her. But this was from Renesmee and Carlisle. I looked to Edward, who was fighting a smile, but refusing to meet my eyes. I shook my head while releasing a warning growl. Just for his ears. Way to get around the rules, Edward. This is perfect. Thank you. Renesmee hugged both Carlisle and Esme tightly and kissed both of their cheeks. Mom, it's great, right? Everyone looked to me, no doubt, waiting for the shit to hit the fan. They all had heard the growl except Renesmee, but chose to ignore it. I rolled my eyes and produced the smile I knew Renesmee wanted. Yes, it is, honey. It's very generous. Everyone relaxed, as well as myself, thanks to Jazz. Here's a gift from me, Rosalie. Handed her a greenish-bluish box. I instantly recognized the color, and only because of Alice's shopping habits. Even this store was out of Renesmee's preferences. It was from Tiffany's. I took in a deep breath, willing myself to calm. They're not doing anything wrong. Each of them has only gotten her one gift. It isn't outrageous. They've missed her previous 19 birthdays and Christmases. This is okay. I repeated the statements over and over within my mind, willing myself to believe wholeheartedly instead of only half, as I was now. Renesmee gasped when she saw the jewelry, which immediately caused me to tense. I trusted Rose. Please don't be $1 million diamond necklace. Please. I opened my eyes, not even realizing that they had closed, and saw Renesmee had turned the box for everyone to see. It was a silver charm bracelet with 3 stars dangling off of it. 2 of the stars were carved from some sort of gemstone, while the third was molded from silver. It certainly was fancier than the leather-bound charm bracelet I had given her, but it was completely Renesmee. It was beautiful. Renesmee looked to me in approval, clearly hoping that she had it, since her smile was a mile wide. That's incredibly beautiful, Rosie. I know she loves it. Renesmee smiled at me as she hugged Rose and then insisting that she help her put it on. All right, I guess your dad gets the honor of going last, huh? Edward joked as he handed a medium-sized box to her. It looked to be the size of a cell phone box, so I calmed down without Jasper's help, which I'm sure he appreciated. I wasn't even aware Renesmee had opened the gift until I saw her jumping up and down in small circles. You got me an iPhone! Oh, thanks, Dad. You what? I glared into Edward's retreating figure. Where the hell does he think he's going? Jasper lost his grip on me, and I chased after Edward's form, heading through the kitchen entryway. I said a basic phone, Edward, I hissed, trying not to catch Renesmee's attention. Thankfully, between the phone and the family, she was completely distracted. No, you said not to get her the most ridiculous one on the market, and this isn't. It's a newer model of a phone that came out years ago. There are many other phones that do ridiculous functions that I immediately crossed out per your instructions. Oh, the tone is so not helping you. Don't talk to me like that, I growled. He sighed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk down to you, but look how happy she is. I know she'd be happy with any old phone, although possibly not now, since she has this one. But just look, I did that. I made her that happy. That's all I wanted to do. Damn it, I didn't want to relent. But what choice did I have? How the hell can I really argue with that? Oh, right, I can't. Okay, just don't blindside me like that, okay? He nodded his head, smiling that damn crooked smile. It made me want to melt. So what did you get her? He asked while leaning up against the kitchen counter. I took a seat on the closest bar stool, getting comfortable for the conversation, such a human and unnecessary thing to do. I didn't really get her something, rather I promised her something. Which was? He looked at me hopefully. She wants to go to the formal next month, and she wants us all to go with her. He nodded, smiling widely. I swear if you laugh... He knew how much I didn't want to go. Past experiences should make that obvious. Sorry, I won't laugh, he mumbled as he bit his lip. You really agreed to that? I rolled my eyes at his failed attempt to convey a calm, neutral stance on the subject. Unfortunately, she's never been to a dance, and she wants to go. And I want to make her happy. He nodded at the sentiment. Well, I believe that all can be arranged. Alice will be thrilled, he smiled. That damn smile again. Yeah, probably, I sighed, dreading what I had to do next. I need a favor. He looked up expectantly. I need you to listen in on David Sanders' thoughts for me about Renesmee. His eyes darkened a few shades. Why? His voice was menacing. Good. He asked Renesmee to the dance, and I want to make sure I don't need to kill him prior to then. Excuse me, he did what? The rage was evident as he gripped the granite countertop, creating dust in the wake of former stone. Esme will be pissed, I muttered, pointing to his hands. He instantly stopped and brushed away the powder he had created. Look, I don't like it any more than you do. And I know this is all new to you, but we can't cage her up. Why not? I laughed at his serious response. Because she's good at sneaking out, he gaped at me. No, seriously, she's 20 years old and has had a boyfriend or two. Boyfriends, which I scared silly. They were never problem though, and it's good for her to have someone to be around that isn't family. Someone that she can just be with. Remember, I'm playing a sister here. You're not even family in our little backstory. Just do the research. I'll take of it. He looked to me completely dejected. I'm sorry, I whispered. Next time it will be different. But this time, that's how it has to be. I left the kitchen to return to the party. It took several seconds for the words to click in my brain. Did I just say next time? Edward paused. It had been 5 hours, 23 minutes, and 18 seconds of complete shopping torture. We had all been forced to go shopping for our formal attire together, all 7 of us. Now, as much as I love spending time with my daughter and Bella, this was not my idea of the way to do that. I swear this is some sort of punishment concocted by my annoyingly hyper-pixie sister. She's scheming, but I'm not sure to what point. Her thoughts were completely focused on the wardrobe selection. Jasper, Emmett, and I would be dressed to the nines in Armani. That was the easy part. The girls, on the other hand, that was a whole other story. I was not envious of them. I knew that Renesmee was enjoying herself. Not only had Bella allowed our daughter to pick out her outfit, but Rose had also eagerly agreed to the idea. Unfortunately for her, now she was regretting that promise. Rosie and Bella had become very close over the past few weeks, not best friends, but definitely allies. This was not a comfort to me, since Rosie was barely speaking to me and would glare any time I entered a room. I had the feeling that she was starting to influence Bella in avoiding me. Just my luck. During Renesmee's birthday, Bella had softened, not to the extent that I would have liked, but still we were working on becoming friends. It was at least a direction that I favored. Rose and Bella came out in their 43rd dress selection. Each, Renesmee and Alice sat on a round couch in front of several mirrors in deep thought, as they appraised both of the selections. After several minutes, Renesmee spoke up. I don't think so. It's not right, she confessed, clearly enjoying the power. Nope, not right, Alice agreed, smiling proudly at Renesmee. Bella turned to return to the dressing room in a huff, but Renesmee spoke again. Mom, can you take in that rack with you? I bet one of those will work. Bella gawked at Renesmee, but she had already turned to talk to Alice about what worked and what was downright unfashionable. I bet I'm going to ground her after all of this, Bella seethed as she pulled the rack containing probably 50 dresses behind her. Jasper, Emmett, and I were lined against the wall directly behind Renesmee and Alice, barely understanding why we were being forced to stay for the girls' fittings. We had been talking all morning, but at this point we were shunned into silence. Alice had had enough of our comments, and I quote, If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And if you do, expect to feel my wrath. Emmett was up for the challenge until he saw Renesmee shake her head in agreement with her dictating aunt. Emmett had come to fear Renesmee. He hadn't revealed why. But it was obvious that something had happened during the concert that made him more than a little fearful. So here we stood, quiet and still, as statues. I'm going to ground her for eternity. She is driving me up the damn wall, Bella hissed from the fitting room. Alice and Renesmee were too involved in their conversation to hear, but the rest were all ears. I never thought anyone would be worse to shop with more than Alice. But your daughter, good God, I was wrong, Rosie growled. I swear if I hadn't agreed to this, I would be running right now. I knew I'd regret this. Then why did you agree? You at least knew what you were getting into. I didn't, Rosie pouted while Emmett began shaking with laughter next to me. She has no idea what our precious niece is capable of. This is only the beginning. Ugh, I don't know. I should have said no, but this was all she wanted. I don't know. I suppose it could be worse, but I am losing my temper here. She had calmed some, but calm or not, I was beginning to fear for my daughter if she didn't agree on a dress in the next 20 minutes. What could be worse than this? She paused and her voice lowered significantly. The silence forced me to listen to Rosie's thoughts, to hear her response. It's a formal dance, Rosie, and everyone will have a date, including Renesmee, except for Edward and myself. I didn't want her getting any ideas. This, at least, distracts her. Wow, she really didn't want us being together. I looked to Jasper and Emmett, who were both silently counting the seconds, until we would be released. Bella, do you really not want to be with Edward anymore? Honestly? Rose wasn't as quiet, and both Jasper and Emmett looked to watch my face. Either I'd be overjoyed or completely devastated. They were still sure of the love that we had shared, but they doubted Bella's ability to be honest with Rosie about the topic. Bella was silent, so I decided to tune into Rose's mind once again, a habit I loathed that was forming. Bella had just slipped a beautiful blue one-shoulder dress on that flowed down her form to the floor. She appeared to be floating. She was a goddess. She smoothed her hands down the material, taking a good look at herself before shaking her head. No, I kind of figured that you're not that good of an actress, Bella. Why are you being so stubborn? Just go with him to the dance. Rosie said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. She was bored of the topic. I held my breath, waiting for her response, for her reasoning. I would dance with her forever if she'd let me, preferably in that dress. 'Cause I'm terrified, Rose. It's not just me anymore. She sighed, turning back to Rosie. Renesmee is a big girl, Bella. You need to go after what you want. Come on, he'll never leave you. He did once. She turned to face the mirror again, looking into her tearful eyes. I knew the tears would never fall, as did she, but it was heartbreaking to know that I caused them. I can't help it, I just feel like he'll do it again if something goes wrong. Rosie walked the 2 steps over to Bella and pulled her into a hug. I was as shocked as Bella. From Rosie's thoughts, it hadn't been the first hug. But apparently it was more sincere and genuine. It wasn't her thanking Bella or being grateful to Bella. No, it was her comforting Bella. She wanted her to trust herself. Her own feelings. She wanted Bella to be happy and to feel wanted, just as Rosie always wanted. Rosalie was near sobs at that moment. She was actually very choked up. Bella had everything Rose had wanted, a child, a man to love, and a family. But her life wasn't perfect. She kept me at arm's length, never letting herself be vulnerable with me, and felt out of place in the family. Rosalie couldn't take it. She felt for Bella. You deserve to be happy, Bella, and you'd be happy if you just let yourself be with him. Rosie whispered in Bella's ear, and then abruptly left the embrace, and came out for Alice and Renesmee's criticism. I like it. It's perfect, Alice gushed as she walked around Rose twice, looking appraisingly at her sister. I love the cut, but maybe the color is... I don't know. I'm not convinced. Alice nodded at Renesmee's opinion and ran out of the room to speak to the saleswoman that had the good sense to hide from this area for the last 2.5 hours. Bella came out in the beautiful blue dress. Rosalie had unknowingly shown me in her mind. She looked gorgeous, and I ached to tell her so. She slumped against the wall, holding her left arm across her stomach, waiting for Renesmee to speak her mind. It was obvious she expected to return to the dressing room to try on yet another dress. Oh my God, she's so pretty. Oh, it's Prefect. It looks similar, but even more elegant. Mom looks stunning. Renesmee thought, her smile growing ever so slightly, so not to reveal her decision. What do you think, Dad? I looked at her in question. Oh, come on. Does she look beautiful or not? I looked to the ceiling and then down again, adopting my visual cues that Alice and I had used so often to communicate. I thought as much. That's the one, Mom. Go change. And now shoes. Renesmee squealed at the last 2 words, not letting Bella know how much she liked the dress. Both she and Alice are scheming. I decided it was in my best interest to stay out of it until I had more facts, so I let the thought drift away. 7 hours, 14 minutes, and 11 seconds. The time was stretching on, and the weariness of the group was ever increasing. If it had just been Alice, this day would have ended hours ago, but no one wanted to disappoint Renesmee. The shoes were purchased. I hadn't imagined all the possible options. I was actually feeling relief for Bella that she would not be feeling the pain of her stiletto heels during the formal. Alice insisted that Jasper, Emmett, and Rosalie were needed to help finalize the remaining arrangements for the formal. Me? Why? Emmett whined, Clearly his resistance was futile, but his petulance was ever present. Uncle Emmett, I wish you would stop complaining. It's close to being over, but only if you stop distracting us from the task at hand. Renesmee looked into Emmett's eyes while holding a hand to his cheek. His eyes grew large at what she showed him. Apparently, she had dirt that she was holding over his head until the formal was over. She didn't reveal the evidence, knowing full well that I was watching, but she lightly smacked his cheek after the images had passed. Thank you, Uncle Emmett. She smiled sweetly, looking all too innocent. I couldn't fight my smile. Emmett walked behind Alice in the opposite direction, with Rosie and Jasper both walking behind him, asking what the hell that was all about. He only shook his head while still staring at the floor. I looked to Bella, as Renesmee giggled at the rest of the family heading off to arrange God knows what, and saw her concern. Renesmee, what did you do your uncle? She asked, sounding extremely motherly, while I fought another smile. Nothing, she smirked, but wouldn't meet our eyes. Come on, I'm hungry. I saw some ice cream in the food court. Bella and I followed Renesmee before I had a chance to pull out my wallet. Bella gave Renesmee a folded $20 bill. Get us all something, honey. Renesmee skipped off, looking completely innocent, calling back to us. Get a table. She's an evil mastermind, I said, to no one in particular. Tell me about it, Bella agreed. She followed me as I found a round booth, half hidden by a short wall that served as the booth's backrest. No one was seated in the area, which would make it considerably easier to hide the fact that we would not be eating the ice cream. I paused looking to see if Renesmee had ordered yet, but I couldn't see her. Here's my chance. Tell her something. Bella, the dress she picked out looked lovely on you. Thank you, Edward. Her answer was dry, monotone. She was trying not to appear emotionally affected by my compliment. If she was still human, her blush or heartbeat would have given her away. I'm sure, but without them, I wouldn't have been so sure if not for the fact that she admitted to Rosia that she wanted to be with me. Are you looking forward to the formal? I asked, hoping to ease her into the conversation. Somewhat, she wasn't mean, but still cold. Hoping that I would remain quiet until Renesmee came back to join our table and undoubtedly occupy the conversation. Bella, I couldn't say what I wanted to. Bella, I want to be with you more than anything, and I know you want that too. I heard you. Please give me another chance. I'll spend forever making it up to you, please. Just stop this hot and cold shit, please. Bella, be with me now and forever. Go to formal with me, marry me, spend forever in my arms. I'll protect you from everything. I could go on and on telling her how much I wanted her and how much she was frustrating me to no end with her avoidance, and then sudden alliance. Oh, for the love of God, she seethed as she rose from her seat. I looked up, ready to defend myself and speak my mind when I noticed it was not me that she was angry with. Over on the other side of the food court sat Renesmee with David Sanders, the boy wanting to date my daughter. They sat there, laughing, eating their ice cream, completely oblivious to Bella and me staring, waiting for a reason to intervene. What is he thinking? Bella asked, no doubt hoping that it was propane so she could scare him out of his mind. She's so beautiful when she smiles. I am so lucky she didn't have a date yet. Every guy in school wanted to go with her, but she said yes to me. Damn. I'm lucky. She's perfect. He smiled as he swept a fallen curl from her forehead, tucking it behind her ear, much like I used to do with Bella. I looked to Bella, and she stared in confusion. Well, she hissed. He thinks he's lucky to be with her. He thinks she's beautiful. I frowned at the statement. This was the second time we had spied on him, hoping that he would reveal ulterior motives that were worthy of physical harm delivered from either of us. Damn, Bella breathed as she reclaimed her seat. Yeah, I agreed. How can you seek out revenge on the boy dating your daughter when his intentions are pure? I was still searching for an answer, one that would hopefully come sooner than later,